money has two values. One is as a means of exchange. Can you buy stuff with it? And money still works the way it always did from that perspective. The other is, can you store your wealth there? And at least with respect to dollars, it used to be the case that you could store your wealth in dollars. But the power players are aware that dollars aren't going to continue to mean what they have traditionally meant. And presumably they have other strategies for storing wealth in ways that they're going to be able to recover it after whatever happens. I would recommend people, I hope I have the title right, there's a book called The Great Taking, written by an elite Wall Street insider who reveals certain changes that have been introduced into the law that most of us are unaware of. So, for example, there's a change in which you think you own a stock in the way that people used to own stocks. But stocks used to actually have a physical manifestation. You had a sheet of paper that you would put in your safe. And what has happened is you now own a stock and you can cash out anytime you like the way you always could. But if the entity, the underlying entity, goes bankrupt, then you don't actually own the stock. You actually own an IOU, which can be valueless. And we don't know this. In the public, we think we're trading stocks the way we always did. But what has happened is something that had a physical manifestation in which you could have a battle in a court about who owns this piece of paper is now not about a piece of paper. It's about a right. And that right has an arcane structure that most of us are unaware of. So the question is, at some point, do things that you think you own, do rules get revealed to you that tells you that you don't actually own those things anymore, and that your financial position is therefore not the one that you thought you were in?
So, what do you think this strategy is about? Like, what do you think?
Power and control.
But do you think that this is the devaluation of money? What's the end purpose of the devaluation of money?
Well,
is it central bank digital currency?
That is a mechanism for the ultimate purpose, which is power and control. And I should point out that in the way I think about things, I take that as an assumption. I'm not arguing that as a conclusion, although I do think you can discover that that is the pattern by looking at all of the evidence about what the rent-seeking elites care about and don't care about. But I would say it is a comparatively safe assumption that it is about control and power because it's always been about that. In fact, evolutionarily, that's really why creatures look the way they do, right? Even, if you take a human being, for example, you're composed of something like 30 trillion cells of 200 different kinds. All of those cells contain the same information, but they all agree to act differently because it's in their interest to not go rogue, right? They could all independently try to reproduce like single-celled organisms. But if they agree to collaborate, they surrender a lot of capability to reproduce. 30 trillion cells can produce a lot of offspring cells. What they get is an increased amount of control over their environment. So that's what evolution is doing by organizing things in the way it is. Its purpose is to put your genes as far into the future as it can lodge them. But power and control is the game, the evolutionary game that is being played. And humans play it differently. And, we go from being a highly adaptable, somewhat technological creature. Our Stone Age ancestors were technological in the sense that they could flint-knap a weapon or a tool, but not highly technological. But nonetheless, the game has persisted as we have become organized into larger and larger social entities, into societies, and it hasn't fundamentally changed now. So what these elites are doing is they are attempting to gain control, to consolidate it, and to arrange to protect it into a future which they see as increasingly chaotic and dangerous. As the people of Earth become aware that they have no plan for the future, that most of us have nothing meaningful to do with our lives, that even the systems that feed us and sustain us energetically are built on rickety premises. They know that there's a reckoning coming, and so they're preparing for it. And, you know, what you saw at the Super Bowl, or didn't see but might have, is the distraction, right? The stuff that we are fed so that we'll think about things that other than our long-term prospects in light of elites who, frankly, don't give a shit about us.